Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin issued a statement saying the Senate Judiciary Committee will mark up and vote on Senator Whitehouse's Supreme Court Ethics Recusal and Transparency Act on Thursday, July 20th. The bill would require Supreme Court justices to adopt a code of conduct, create a mechanism to investigate alleged violations of the code of conduct and other laws, improve disclosure and transparency when a justice has a connection to a party or amicus before the court, and require justices to explain their recusal decisions to the public. Joining us now is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat of Rhode Island, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's chair of the Senate Subcommittee on the Federal Courts. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want to begin with your bill on the last thing we mentioned, which is the recusal elements of your bill, and what is contained in the recusal elements of the bill.
Well, you can't just make a private decision to recuse or not recuse without explaining it. And as part of the ethics process, there'd be an inbox if somebody had a complaint about your recusal, so that somebody would take a look at whether your recusal or not was justified. Right now, we're in a situation in which Justice Thomas, for instance, can refuse to recuse himself from cases that implicate his own wife's emails. And then not only does he not make a public decision about why he should or should not recuse, but nobody else comes in to have a look at it. Any other judge, if there was a question and you passed the original screen of it not being a nutty request, if it was a serious concern that was expressed by someone, there'd be a staff lawyer tasked to go and ask the right questions and find out what the facts were. So at the moment, we don't know the facts. The judges don't have to be clear or transparent about what their analysis of why they should or shouldn't recuse was, and they can basically just blow the whole thing off if they choose to, as Justice Thomas has.
So it's one thing when a justice does recuse, as we saw Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson recuse on a recent case involving Harvard, for example. But it's when they don't recuse that it's a stranger condition, because they never give a reason for not recusing.
Yeah, and that's where the rest of the bill comes in, because if there's better disclosure of gifts and emoluments and relationships, just to a level that we in Congress already meet, to a level that members of the executive branch already meet, then there'd be a lot more information for these recusal determinations to be made. I mean, all this that we discovered in the news today about the additional billionaire friends of Justice Thomas wouldn't be anything that somebody in the public would question and say, well, why didn't you recuse yourself? Because the underlying conflict was kept secret. So the whole thing has to move as a package, and that's what we hope we'll do. And I'm very grateful to Chairman Durbin for setting up a markup on the bill.
Can you explain to viewers who just heard me say that Clarence Thomas revealed 20 private jet flights, and then and other things, all sorts of things, pretty detailed disclosures, right down to getting a jacket from someone. Yep. And then the LA Times decided to assemble all of that and do an article many years ago, saying, here is what we've discovered in all of the Clarence Thomas disclosures about what he's received. And his response to that was to simply never disclose that stuff again. How was he able to make that as his choice of what to do after reading the LA Times article?
So let me offer a surmise, which is that both Thomas and Alito, who have both been caught with unreported billionaire, paid for by the billionaire jet travel, both of them have said that they looked to colleagues and others for a determination as to how to proceed. Notably, they did not go to the committee of the judiciary, of the federal judiciary, that actually tells you how to proceed. They did some sort of an informal thing and talked with someone. And I suspect very much that that someone was Justice Scalia, who really broke open the door of freebie undisclosed travel with his dozens of free hunting trips. And I strongly suspect that they spoke at some point, and maybe Alito as well, and he said, you just get in trouble when you report this stuff. Do like me. Don't bother. Nobody can tell you. And that's what needs to be cleaned up.
Let's just do a counterexample here. What would happen to you if you decided, or if you spoke to a fellow senator who said to you, do what I do, just don't disclose any of this stuff. Don't disclose any of it. What would happen to you in relation to the disclosures you're supposed to make as a senator?
We have a Senate Ethics Committee that has the authority to look into it. Nobody now has the authority to look into the Supreme Court. The Senate Ethics Committee has trained staff lawyers who understand how to do investigations and sort out what the facts are. Nobody sorts out what the facts are with the Supreme Court. And then at the end of the day, senators sit in the Ethics Committee and make a decision about whether my conduct would have violated the law or violated Senate rules. And nobody makes that decision for the Supreme Court. They make that for themselves. So 3 for 3, the legislative branch of government has processes and transparent proceedings involving other individuals that the Supreme Court has avoided for itself, but that all other federal judges actually have to adhere to.
Do you expect to hear from the Chief Justice about your legislation at any point?
I don't at this point. We are, communicating back and forth with the court in various ways. What I very much hope is that the breadth and scope of this bill is a signal to the Judicial Conference so that it proceeds more broadly and with more alacrity to look at solving these problems within the judicial branch. I'm proceeding somewhat reluctantly here, only because neither the Chief Justice nor the Judicial Conference, nor the Supreme Court have done anything yet to indicate that they take this problem seriously and are working to find a really credible solution. So we're going forward because we feel we have to, but it would be perfectly appropriate for the Chief Justice to direct the Judicial Conference to clean up this mess, and they could do it in a week.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, whose crusade for ethics at the Supreme Court continues, thank you very much for joining us once again tonight.
Thank you.